Okay. So what I'm going to talk about is this concept I call own the airport. And for many years, I was talking about owning the railroad station. And that was kind of the image I had. And then somebody said, yeah, it's more like an airport. And I go, you know what, you're right. So I started using the analogy of the airport. And when I give my presentations to live groups, I've probably presented this idea 100 times already in various groups I've been involved with, and it's just kind of been evolving. But every time I give people this analogy, there's at least one or two people in the room that say that was the biggest takeaway from the whole day was that analogy of the airport. It's completely changed how I think about my business and what the future of my business could look like, and so on. So they get very, very excited about this analogy. Okay, and there's a whole bunch of benefits to it, but one of the main benefits is to generate passive income from this, because that's what's kind of cool about it. Is that once you own the airport, there's a lot of ways that you can make money by basically having other people do the work, if you want to think of it that way, and that's a pretty cool thing. So all of us want to grow our business typically, but we sometimes hesitate because we go, well, that just sounds like more work, right? It just end up having more work to do. But if you could scale your business this way, then you go, oh no, actually, I'm just creating work for other people. And therefore, I don't mind just making it 1,000 times bigger because, I don't have to do 1,000 times more work. It won't work out that way. So as I go through this, I'll talk a lot of benefits from it. But passive income is a pretty cool reason to pursue this way of thinking. Okay, so the question that we'll start with, and you can ponder this, is your business an airline or an airport? And an airline, it's like all of our businesses are typically like an airline. Okay, is that we're selling tickets on the airline. So we have this kind of one product basically, or a couple of products, but we're in a kind of a particular industry, and we're selling, we're selling our, a second, we're selling our tickets on that plane, okay? And then we have competitors, there's other airlines, right? And this is, what kind of makes it hard to run an airline ultimately. And there's a lot of operational issues, and we're like seeing with Boeing now, with Alaska Airlines, and I just came back from Mexico, and it was a mess that I won't tell you what airline it was, but I guess they were just having a very hard time keeping get the plane going. It was just crazy. Anyway, so it could be kind of a nightmare. But what if you were to own the airport? What would that be like? What if you still own the airline, but now you own the airport? Okay, so this is a different kind of business altogether, right? So imagine if WestJet, for Canadians, WestJet's an airline in Canada. WestJet were also to own the Calgary airport, for example, right? So you can imagine what that would look like. So first thing was, when you walked in that airport, the first thing you would see is WestJet, okay? Air Canada would be somewhere in the back, okay? And all the other airlines would be somewhere in the back. You would get first, the most highest profile in the airport. The second thing, though, is you would let the other airlines land at the airport, but they'd have to pay you a fee to do it, right? And they would still get the gates that farthest away from the main door of the terminal. They would, but they'd have to pay to land there. And then you would also sell, it would also sell retail space, or release out retail space to stores in the airport, right? Because people want to have a store there because there's a lot of people that go through the airport. So this is a different kind of business. And what you're really doing is just managing all the interactions that would happen. In fact, you could get to the point where this was so much better business that you'd say, hey, listen, I'm just going to sell off the airline, WestJet, and then I'm going to just charge WestJet to land at the airport. So I still make money from WestJet. I just don't have to own WestJet anymore. Okay? So obviously setting up a physical airport is not easy, right? It's not the easiest thing. But we're not talking about that. This is like a virtual airport. And the key with this approach is that actually doing it is as easy as anything. It's a lot of fun. The technology to do it is basically free at this point. And then the other thing is that is a way to scale your business that is actually doable. Okay, so all of those things. But the hardest part of it is getting your head around this, because we're so used to thinking of our business like an airline where we're selling tickets that this is a trick. This is a tricky thing to get your head around it. But once you get your head around it and the aha happens, then you realize, oh my God, this is just so much a better thing. And the number one initial benefit of it is that you will end up selling more tickets on your airline because you're just meeting more people and they're all coming to the airport and you get first crack at them as a customer. So this is why this really helps you just deal with your airline as well, right? You don't have to sell your airline. It's a possibility. I'll just show you an example of that in a second. But it will generate more business for your airline. But then you'll start to realize, oh, there's all these other ways that I can make money that I never thought possible before. So this fellow, Nick Bloor, he's one of my best examples of an airport. Okay, so I met him at a conference. It was in Boston it was an MIT entrepreneur conference. So they asked me to speak there, and that was a really cool conference actually, because there were people from all over the world there. They're all entrepreneurs, all very eager to learn new things, and so he came up to me at the end, and he said, Bill, I really have an airline. I'm running an airline. I really want to have this airport idea, and I said, well, what's your airline? And he said, well, I'm from Australia, and I cut grass. We cut grass, and we're the largest landscape maintenance company in Australia. We get a lot of big contracts from the cities in Australia and so on, and it's a booming business. I said, well, that's great. So what's your issue? He says, well, it's very competitive. The margins are very low. It's very stressful business to run, and I can't imagine making it bigger because it just be increasing my stress. So I like the sound of what you're talking about, right? Okay, so we ended up going through our program and our process, and we came up with this idea called the IVM program. And essentially what he did was he had this software that he had. It was a logistics software that they created. And they probably spent $1 million on it over the years developing it. And they used it for their own projects. So it told them when to go out and cut the grass, basically, and do the, trim the trees and fix the gardens and stuff. It kept everything organized. So it was sort of AI before AI, really. I said, oh, that's the IVM program. He said, what's that? I said, well, that's the Integrated Vegetation Management Program. Oh, okay. And so what I told him is go to the cities in Australia and offer them that software program for free, okay? And make them a member. And just say it's free and you can use it for your own purposes, for your own projects. So almost every major city in Australia said, wow, free. Okay, let's try it. So they started using it. And then he said, well, if you want to upgrade, we have level 2 and level 3. Level 2 is $50,000 a year, and level 3 is $250,000 a year. Okay, and they said, what do we get for that? And they said, what we do is then we integrate your suppliers with the system. We integrate their technology with this system, so it's all one integrated system. They pay $10,000 a year to be in that system. So every one of these cities agreed to that. They said, well, go for it. So now they went out to talk to these companies, and some of them were their competitors, other companies that cut grass in cities where they didn't have the contract. So initially the competitor was surprised to see them show up, but then they realized, okay, we better get on this because we want to be integrated with our client, So he hooked up all these people, all these companies to the system. It became one integrated system, right? An airport now, right? And so this was hugely successful. It took a couple years to kind of roll it all out. But at that point, then he said, you know what? I'm going to sell my old factory. And I had sort of said you could, but I wasn't suggesting it one way or the other. But anyway, he went ahead and he sold his business. And he went to the new owners and said, listen, anytime I have a member and they need grass cutting, I'm going to send them to you. I just want 10% of whatever you bill them. And they said, okay, that's great. Thank you. Okay. So what he tells me now is that he makes more money from his old company than when he owned it. Because when they give him that 10%, that's just money in his pocket. He doesn't have to give any of that to anybody else. That's 10% that he gets to keep. So his profit margin is like, he's putting 80% of the money he makes in his pocket and the other 20% for his overhead. Okay, which is the reverse of what he was doing before, or not even that before. So he's very excited about this. Now, the thing is too, it's an ecosystem now that's so embedded in what everybody's doing that there's no competitor. Nobody could be a competitor now. Like, wouldn't be possible really. And everyone's happy with the system, and it just becomes this technology that's in the background now. Okay. Now he said, well, the technology is one thing. He said, but the key was me getting my head around this idea of being an airport, because I'm so used to cutting grass that I figured that's what a business is. You do something like cut grass, and then somebody gives you money, and that's a business, right? You have to do something to get the money. But he said, now I make money from grass being cut. I just don't have to cut it. So every time grass gets cut, somebody else is doing it, but I'm making money from that. And so he said, I just never would have thought that that's actually how you could do things, and I said, well, yeah, but look at Airbnb does that. And he said, and Uber does that. And he said, yeah, I know, but I just never thought of applying that kind of thinking to my business. I just never thought that was something that I should do in my business. So that's for technology companies. I said, it's not really about the technology. It's about the thinking behind it. That's it. So this is one example of how you could create an airport, okay? Now, the key here to doing this kind of thing, and almost every big idea I come up with for people and help them with, is you got to ask yourself, are you a true entrepreneur or not? Okay? What does that mean? Well, people throw around that word a lot, entrepreneur. Typically, they just say, well, somebody owns a business, their own business. They're not employee or something. I say, well, no, that's a business owner. And so you could be the manager of a business, right? So you're managing your airline and you're good at managing it. But that's not really, you were an entrepreneur once when you started it, but now you become a manager. What I'm suggesting is that we go, okay, we're going to keep managing our airline, but we're going to now be an entrepreneur again, and we're going to create the airport. This is what the entrepreneurs do. They're not satisfied of just staying where they are. They're going, I got to take another jump. Okay. Now, the key here is this one isn't really that complicated or risky, actually. The risky part is not to do it. Okay. Because if you don't do it, then someone else will, right? And then you'll be one of the airlines trying to line up at their airport to get in, because that's where all the people are. So this is like I say, the risk is not to do it. So are you an entrepreneur or not? That's up to you to decide. But that's kind of what who I'm talking to here about this, really. And it's also just to go, yeah, I am an entrepreneur. I shouldn't just be a manager. Now, I'm not asking anyone to do anything that I haven't done myself, because I had a turning point in 2012. Okay, so at that point, I had about 30 people working for me in an office in downtown Toronto. I had a lot of overhead. I had a lot of issues where it was one of my clients. It's like running an adult daycare, and I go, you're not kidding. Anyway, so, and every time I'd go at the office, I'd get in to pull in my parking spot and I'd go, okay, what is it going to be today? Right? Something. And I realized I wasn't spending anywhere near enough time doing the thing that I was really good at, which is helping people with big ideas. I was becoming a manager, And then I went to this conference and I spoke at the conference and I talked about some of these things. I went, wait a minute, I got to take my own advice here. So I sat down and I thought, okay, these things are going to have to change. And I'm not satisfied with this anymore. Like anyone else would have looked at me, well, you're a great success. It's got a booming business. I said, yeah, but it ain't what I wanted, or ain't what I want. So I started to think about what I did want. And what I wanted to do was create an airport. I didn't have the analogy yet, but that was what I thought. I wanted to create a virtual business that where I'd really make 10 times more money. Because basically what was happening, we were bringing in a lot of money, but then it was just going out, right? So I was trading dollars, so that was not good. So I said, I want to hang on to more of the money for myself. That's just the way it is. And then I want to work less. I'm spending all this time on all this stuff. I want to work half as much. And also the key was I wanted to work from anywhere, because having that office and all those people really tied me down to that space, right? I had to be there. I remember one time at Christmas Eve, I'm in there. Everybody else has gone away. I'm in there dealing with technology problems, and my wife's calling me, where the heck are you? And I said, well, I'm at the office. And I said, what are you, Scrooge or what? And I said, yeah, probably, yeah. So anyway, so that was something I didn't want to have happen anymore. And so what I did was I sat down my people and I said to them, look, I'm going to make this switch. It's going to take a couple of years, but I'm moving out of this office, and everyone's going to have to find another job, or I'll help you create your own business. And so most of them said, okay, I want to get another job. So I helped them get another job, gave them good references. And then the other people, I helped them set up their own business. They were the key ones, and I kept working with them. And most of them moved away anyway, somewhere else, and yet I kept working with them. So basically a virtual business, right? So 10 years almost before the pandemic and everybody's having virtual business, I was going, this is what you need to have is a virtual business. But also that it needs to be more of an airport, okay? So I really understood that over the previous 20 years or so, I had been working with a particular way of thinking about a business that was kind of old-fashioned, I call it old factory, and that I wanted to create a new factory that was more virtual, right? So that became great. And then the other thing I wanted to do was adopt the strategies that are used by Google, Apple, Facebook, and Amazon. So I had worked with Apple in the 80s, so I was very familiar with them. And of course, I studied what these other companies were doing. And I realized, well, I can do these things too. And this is what I tell everyone now. I said, what they're doing, you can do too. And one of the reasons why now, especially, is that when they did it, they had to build all this technology. It cost millions of dollars to build it. Basically, you can do what they do now with technology that's basically free. And as you'll see later, AI can help you do this even more. So now the technology has become available to everyone to do what these companies are doing. And so there's no real restriction on that. And what they've done obviously works, and this is what the marketplace likes. So I was like really thinking, how would that be? So ultimately, I said to myself, well, this is like, I said a train station initially, but then now I say airport. But I was really thinking of it more of that I was at a hub. My business was a hub, and that everything kind of connected to the hub. That was the notion. And the genesis of that was actually back in, I think, even the late 70s. I read a book called The Third Wave, which you might have read, by Alvin Toffler. And essentially that's what he was talking about, making things virtual. And that really stuck in my head all those years, that's really a better way to go, and that's the future. So you never know when you read a book when you're going to get the benefit of it. So ultimately, I realized that the airport had 3 pillars to it. And this is kind of key to take a note on this if you want, is that you have a network, you have advanced programs, and you have a value hub. Okay? And the network, it's kind of like Facebook or LinkedIn, right? So you're inviting people into a network for free, and it's a community that you're offering people. So we've set up a whole bunch of networks in the last year or so with people, and they're all saying, this is great, it's working great. It's the best way for me to meet people is by having this free network. Then there's advanced programs, okay? So you can say, yep, you can buy tickets on my airline, but I also have the VIP membership that you could join, and it's this, because maybe it goes beyond just having the flight, maybe it's the whole trip or whatever, the VIP travel or whatever it is, but it's the membership idea. And then the value hub is a whole directory or store of resources that you've made arrangements with other companies to provide those resources. So just like the Apple Store, that's a value hub, right? So you go in the Apple Store and you can buy apps, you can buy music, you can buy movies, and so on, right? So they have tons of things. And then, of course, they have all their other stuff, all their products and so on. So they have quite a wealth of things. Amazon, obviously, is the ultimate value hub. They started with books, and now they sell everything, right? Okay. And then for advanced program membership, like Costco or Prime membership on Amazon. So like I say, that we're just doing what these other companies are doing that work. And the reason they work is because this is what the marketplace likes. Okay. So why not do that? And so let me see here. So now what's really cool is that now I'm really earning premium income because we have our programs, and so they're like gourmet meals, we feel like our programs that we offer, right? And then we're making all this passive income from our airport. And just today I got like $9 from an app that somebody buys every month. Because they subscribe to that app, I get $9, right, from that one app. And but that's just one of hundreds of these things. But $9 starts that up, right? $9, another $10 over here, $15 over there. But then there's the big stuff too, because I refer people to companies. One time I referred someone to a graphic designer, office designer, and the project ended up being $130,000. That's what she made. I got $13,000 for that project. And I didn't do a thing except introduce my client to the supplier. Because I had made a prearranged arrangement with her. If I send you someone, you'll give me 10%. And she said yes. So she's part of my 10% club, I call it. I have about 50 companies in that. I have a lot of digital products that are in my store, but I also have companies that I just refer people to. It might only be once or twice a year, or maybe only once ever, but $13,000, right? That was pretty nice money for doing nothing, really, in a way. But did I do nothing or what? For both of those people, I was the airport for them. I brought them together. They were very happy with that. Okay, so this is why I'm a big believer in this. It's actually quite easy to do. It's also more fun, because the amount of time that I spend on operational issues is about 5% of my time. It's really got down to almost nothing to do because all the technology kind of runs itself. So I'm only really spending about 5% of my time on something I used to spend 80% of my time on. And see, that was really what it came down to back in the day, back 10 years ago. As I said, I'm not spending anywhere near enough time doing the thing that I'm meant to do, because I'm all caught up managing this business. I didn't set out for that, right? So that was the biggest reason. And so now I'm spending 95% of my time doing stuff like this, and that's better, right? I'm not all caught up in that. So one of the things to think about going forward here is, if you want to grow your business, you got to say, what kind of business am I going to grow here? Because everybody just talks kind of about scaling or 10xing your business and everything, but it's great. But also then step back, go, well, yeah, but what kind of business am I going to create, right? And one of the things I've seen is that if you do it in the old factory way, like the airline way, is that often we grow our business into bankruptcy or to some kind of nightmare. And we grow it too big, right? Like there's a natural size in my mind of a business, and once you reach that, then you shouldn't try to make it any bigger, because when you do, it's usually the point where things start, the wheels start coming off, right? So, but in this case with the airport, the wheels will never come off. You can just make it as big as you want, right? So that's what's pretty cool about it, and still only be spending 5% of your time on it. Okay, now let's just go back and talk about the problem with running an old factory. Just start there, right? So the picture there is a company that makes hammers, right? So take your product and apply it to hammers, and we're pumping out those hammers, right? So the issues that are, as I've said, there's a lot of capital and overhead that's required to build that thing. There's a lot of people to deal with. You might end up with a whole warehouse full of hammers you can't sell, and then you just give them away or whatever, and then there's competitors and so on. So this is the issue around the old factory, right? So I've kind of enumerated that already. So another example is Jeff Calibaba. So I've known Jeff a long time. He's had a number of businesses, and I've helped him with them. And then he got into the HR consulting business. And, he was talking to me about this and how he wanted to grow it. I said, Jeff, that's kind of like an airline. I'm looking on Google right now. I'm seeing HR consulting. There's like 40,000 of them in Canada, 400,000 of them in the US. We need to do it differently if you want, And he said, okay, well, I said, the airport, we need that. So what he has is those three pillars. So he has the HR connection network. So he invites the head of HR in a company to join this network for free. Okay. So he's got hundreds of them now in that network, and they come to a meeting, kind of like this, but it's about HR. They come to that meeting. They love it, and it's free. It's great. And he's meeting all of these people and getting involved with their companies and so on. So then he has his program, and his program is called HROS. That's his advanced program. It's $50,000 a year to be in that. So last count, after 2 years of doing this, he's got about 25 to 30 companies that are in that program. Okay, and that's like a revolving thing. It'll be every year if they want to stay in it. And then he has a store, which is the best part, actually. And so he's referring people to like a benefits company, right? So he sends them to a benefits company. 2 or 3 companies now have signed up for their benefits through this system. And Jeff gets 10% of the premium that the company pays every month to the benefits company. So he says, I'm making money now from benefits, and I don't have to own a benefits company. All right. Now, and the member is happy with it because they go, well, you put this resource in front of me. Obviously, you stand behind them. I don't have to look around. And as a member, it makes sense for me to buy the things that are in the store, in the value hub. Okay. So his trajectory with this business is full steam ahead because he can just keep adding more people to the network. He can just keep getting more members at a premium rate. And he can just start adding more and more companies to the store and getting more and more transactions happening in there, all passive income, you see. And so this is, he's just really happy that he adopted this airport model for his business, right? For his new business 2 years ago. So as I said, it has these 3 pillars. I go back over them again. We have this network that you invite people in. That's opposed to the old way, which is like I go out and I knock on doors and I try to get a client, a prospect to talk to me, right? To listen to me. And they get them as a client. So that's the normal thing. But that doesn't work very well anymore because people are just blocking out salespeople, right? And sales messages. So that's not the best way to meet people. But now if you say, well, you should join this network, right? Now you might say, well, they're already in the network. They're on Facebook. They're already on LinkedIn and so on. They're in groups on Facebook. It doesn't matter. Like they can still be in any of those networks, but they can also be in yours. Now, the trick here with the network is to make sure that it is, actually, sorry, I missed my, go back, lost it, is that you got to make sure that there's a good reason for them to come into it. So it has to be very niche, all right? So I've just started working with someone. He has something called the Specialized Packaging Network. So these are for companies that need specialized packaging for their products. So they're not just putting it in a brown box and sending it out. They want to have a very nice, the packaging is part of the product. Like Apple, Apple has amazing packaging on their products. So he has created a network of those folks, and people are joining it because they go, this is great. There's finally a network that's for what exactly I need here, right? It's not a general purpose thing. And then we have the advanced program. So you always want to be thinking, well, how can I create a premium offer from I have my basic offer and what my premium offer would be. And if they take that, they'd be a member. And then the value hub is the store, right? And it has the different resources in it. So if you were a hammer company, you'd set this up, and you say, well, I'm going to put other hammer companies in there. Like any hammer you want, you can buy through the system, not just mine. That's the really tricky part. But also you can buy screwdrivers, you can buy ladders, and you can buy insurance, and you can buy leasing on trucks and so on, right? You could just keep adding on more and more things there. And especially if you get the supplier to give the members a discount, then you're in really good shape, right? Say, listen, give the member a discount. So they'll definitely want to buy this from you as a member. Say member discount. Now, that's fine. We have the 3 pillars, but the big idea is the key to why someone would actually come to this airport. Okay? There has to be a compelling reason to do it that they can't get anywhere else. Okay? So YouTube, when it came out, was, well, you can upload videos and you can watch videos. That was a new idea. Facebook, oh, you can go on there and connect with all your friends. Great, right? So that was the big idea in those cases, and so what is the big idea for you, right? So let me just show you example. I don't want to go that one. Here we go. So the one last example here. So the Right Now program, and this is the illustrative of the idea of a big idea. So basically, Rick, his old factory airline is to sell air filters that go into airplanes. Okay, so it's kind of a pun or something on this whole analogy. But anyway, so these air filters go into airplanes, and so the airlines are his customers. Okay, and I said, is there anything that you could help them with that no one's helping them with now? Like anything else that you could do? And he said, well, oftentimes they have a part they can't find for their plane. Like it might be just a little bolt for the wing, and therefore they can't fly the plane. So for lack of a $5 part, they're losing thousands of dollars a day by not flying that plane. And I said, well, that sounds like a big problem. So he says, yeah. So I said, well, maybe you could just tell them to that you can do that for them, right? So they'd say, do you have a part you can't find? Yeah, there's this bolt we can't find. So they started helping the airlines with that, and they would charge them a premium, right? It would be like $5,000 for that part, and the airline was paying for the trouble they went to find it, not for the part itself. But it got the plane up in the air again. So they became known as someone to call about that. So we started calling it the Right Now program. You need that part right now. And then if you buy something, you become a member and you get these points. And it became a website. And then we started putting all the parts that the airlines buy on there. And essentially it became the Amazon of parts for the airlines. Right Now program. And just think about how much more valuable that business is than his commodity business, right? Now, he's actually selling more air filters now than ever because he has more people, more airlines coming to his site, okay? So he actually gets the opportunity to sell more filters, but he also is selling his competitors' filters too. So when they type in air filter, right, up comes his products and the competitors, right? But his are at the top, and they're given a little badge that says, Right Now approved or something. And they're actually a premium price now. And most people still buy those because they come up at the top. So he's, like I say, because he owns the airport, he gets his first position every time when they put in air filters. But he says, yeah, but it isn't even about air filters anymore, really. That's just where we started. Just like Amazon started with books and Apple started with computers and, and so on. That's just where we started, but it isn't where we are now, where we run an airport. So that he just he said it was just that thought about what do they need that they can't get from anyone else, and once you have that idea, you kind of build your airport around that particular issue, and then the rest of it just flows from there. Now, one of the things that is really exciting, I think, about 2024, and the article I just read in the New York Times, is how much this is going to advance. AI is going to advance this year, One of them being the development of AI agents, which essentially be able to string together a whole bunch of actions to perform certain functions, right? That you might do now yourself, and it's very tedious, or someone in your company does very tedious. Well, it's going to be able to, do those things for you as a sequence of activities, right? Go into certain websites and do certain things, and then create emails, and then do so on, and maybe even like have robots to do it in the real world too, ultimately. But the key thing here is that this is exactly what will make it easy to build and to operate an airport, because the AI will help you build it, right? Because you can say, okay, how do I get this? How do I do that? And then it'll help you do it quickly. And then it will help you run it, right? It'll also be able to take the information that's being generated, the data in the airport, lots of interactions, and glean insights from that. And then that becomes a valuable asset too. So AI is like going to be the supercharger of businesses that are designed like airports. Okay, like most people right now, they're thinking, how can I use AI to run my airline? But really, that's just the cheap seats here. We if you want to be behind home plate here, this is what you want to do, is have with AI. You want to have an airport, this type of business, right? Okay, so that's why I think the AI is just so cool. So the last thought here is, what does your future look like then? Are you going to keep doing it, the same thing that you're always doing? Or are you going to start to think, okay, I want to start building my business like an airport? So what we're going to do this year during these Monday meetings is we're all going to start working on how do you get your airport set up, okay? And we're going to help each other do that, all right? And you'll start to see that it's like, well, why wouldn't I do this? Right? I mean, it's like, why would I not do that? That's the first thing. And you realize, yes, of course. So we're just going to help each other, and then everyone's going to have an airport. Now, somebody did say to me, well, what happens if everybody has an airport? Like, isn't that kind of, aren't we back to square one again? We're all the same. And I said, well, it's a little different in this case, because the whole point of airports is to connect to other airports. So the more airports there are, the more valuable each airport is. So let that stick in your mind for a second. So that's why there's no competition when we do this, is that we're all connecting to each other, you see. And then when you start to see that, then you can see how this can really improve your business, but also improve the economy. And everyone thinks this way, then we're all going to be way better off. So we're all referring to each other. We're saying, hey, you should do this job, and I can send somebody to you, you can send someone to me, but we're both making money from that. It's not just, hey, that was nice. No, this is our business. We're in the business of connecting people together, you see. So I'm hoping that you'll come along for this journey here this year. There's really going to be my mission here to help you with this, and to everyone to end up by the end of the year with really a full functioning airport. Now, one last thing, because some of you might say, you know what, I'm not techie. I'm not tech. I'm not a tech. Bill's, you're a techie guy, and I appreciate that. But the key here is that it's not about the technology. Like, you don't have to have any technology, really fancy technology, to do this. You can have the network. All you need is Zoom. Okay, and you could put people's names in a spreadsheet and email them an invite to an event. That's it. That's all you have to do. The program is just a program, and you can say, I'm offering a program and it's cost this much, and you remember it doesn't take any technology. And the store could just be a list you have in a spreadsheet, and you're just referring people to that. That could be level one. So all you're using there is email you're already using, spreadsheets probably already using. You don't even need a website or anything. It's just that you're operating in this mode, okay? But of course, you can take it a lot farther than that if you want. But that was the slide probably out of place, which was to say, think big and start small, okay? This is what we do. So we think big. I'm just getting you to think really big. Like, imagine having thousands of people in your network, thousands of members, all kinds of vendors, lots of transactions, thinking really big. But it's going to start small, right? One person in the network, one member, one vendor, one referral, one commission. That's how it'll start. But once you start doing that, then you start realizing, well, I can increase that. And really, you can increase it as much as you want and never be really any more work, really. Okay, so that's the idea of having an airport in turning your business from an airline into an airport.